If you're looking for a 2 to 3 day fix, click off this video right now. To transform yourself, you must be consistent and disciplined, build the right habits, and have the courage to not let the failures you go through discourage you. During your journey, you'll face moments where you feel like giving up. It is doing the work despite you not feeling like it, which is truly going to help pay dividends. However, for you to have the drive and discipline to do so, you need to start fully believing in the direction you're going in. I want you to sit down and really think, how do I want to look like at the end of this journey? How do I want to act? What personality traits do I want to embody, and so forth? Write down these answers, and then every week before going to bed, think, am I moving closer to becoming my attractive character?
Shahab Khan is a self-development content creator and motivational speaker. His YouTube channel focuses on building a new perspective on how to improve your mindset and contains multiple guides that has helped him along his journey. But let's go back all the way to the beginning of October 10th, 2023, with his first video on his most recent channel being Why Reflecting on Death Will Change Your Life.
Death, it's not our enemy, it's merely a transition. The beginning of what awaits us, beyond what this world could not fulfill. This body we inhabit is but a vessel, temporary and fragile. It houses the internal flame of the soul, a spark that outlasts the vessel's decay. The fear of death arises from our attachments, from our tenuous grasp on the tangible and the known. It is the fear of the uncharted territory that lies ahead. The fear of what we cannot fully comprehend. Yet courage arises as we commit ourselves to our purpose and we dedicate ourselves to our missions. As we journey onwards, let us not evade the company of death, rather embrace it. Picture life as a book, pages turning swiftly, and at each moment a sentence inked with the passage of time. However,
Then, during December of 2023, Shahab started to venture into live streaming on his channel, where he will have different discussions or talk about different topics with his supporter or random guests online. But also his live streams, he is known for being a competitive online chess player.
we're back! We're back! We're back for day two of us infiltrating the real world.
That's fine. Now take his knight. We're gonna put him into check with the pawn now. We're gonna move that up by 1 and it should be game over. Yep, move that up. We checkmated him with the pawn.
Of course, undefeated. Undefeated, all carried by Astrobyte. Let's go! Oh, yes.
That you read it.
That's one chess match under the belt.
Later on, throughout the year 2023, Shahab posted more self-development guides, but during January 2024, something special happened, which Shahab reached 100 subscribers and decided to celebrate by having his 100 sub special live stream, and it started off like this.
Let's go! Let's go! We had 100 subscribers. We did it. Let's go! They didn't believe in us. They didn't believe in us. They didn't believe in us. Now we're here. Let's go. Before January even ended, we hit the 100 subscribers. I said before January 31st, we had 100 subscribers. We hit 100 subscribers. You know what? They don't believe in us. They don't believe in us. There's people out there that don't believe in us. But you know what? God did. Oh, let's go. Let's go. They didn't believe in us.
So just imagine what he'll do when he reaches 1,000 subscribers. But anyway, stay tuned to hear about Shahab, how he started his YouTube journey, his personal life and family struggles, and his opinions on society and the current state that it's in. Hey there, Arma here. Welcome to a brand new Armavation conversation. Today's conversation will be with the one and only Shahab Khan. I hope I got that right. But he is a content creator and he has a channel dedicated to those who are looking for self-improvement, improving your mindset, staying focused, and just limiting the distractions of the world. So today he's really here to share a personal experience. So thank you so much, Shahab, for taking the time to join this conversation. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate this as well. And that was such a kind and heartwarming introduction. Thank you.
Yeah. So, just getting into it, just from human to human being, I ask everyone this: how are you doing? Like, what's been the best thing that's happened to you this year, or just how are you living right now?
Alhamdulillah, all praise to God. I've been having a great year. A lot of things have been happening. I've started focusing more on YouTube. Previously, I was going down the med route, so I was doing a lot of volunteer and research. I stopped all that in October simply just to focus on work and content creation. And I've seen a lot of fruits of the labor. There's been a lot of improvement that's been done. And I've enjoyed every single moment of that journey. So far, the best thing that's happened to me this year is obviously this podcast. Nothing beats coming on Arma's podcast.
Yeah, you better say that again so they can hear in the back.
Of course. I'll say it as many times as you need me to.
All right. So I want to ask, based on your channel, like, do you prefer? Because I know you live stream and then you have you edit videos, and I just wanted to ask, which one is better in your opinion? Do you prefer?
For me personally,
do you prefer live streaming or just editing videos?
That's a great question. So from the research I've done in terms of YouTube, when you start early on, you want to do as many things as possible to see what hits with the algorithm. My main focus is the self-improvement cinematic videos and the highly edited videos where I'm taking information and I'm providing them to people in a manner that's very understandable, where it allows them to dream big, but also take action, which is something I've noticed a lot where people sit on YouTube, they're spending all their time watching videos, but I never see anybody take action on the information they get. And I do view that as a major disease in today's modern society where we're flooded with information, yet we never do anything with that information. I've heard so many people say, I'm going to start this business, I'm going to start a YouTube channel, I'm going to do this in terms of career goals. But when you check up on them a month or two later, they've not done anything in terms of it.
Right. And I agree with you on that. And I agree with you on that because, I'm sure you've been there yourself where you procrastinated and said like, oh, I'm going to do this and I haven't. But then your mindset just improves and you're like, nah, I have to take action. And that's the only way I'm going to get to where I want to be, So yeah, I'm glad you said that because, more people need to hear it. And that's why I'm glad that you decided to, come on this conversation because there's so many people like out there that I was trying to get to, share their ideas and opinions, to help inspire others. But it's like they don't really want to, they might be nervous or something. So anyone who's brave enough to come on, just online in front of the world to say their piece, that's special. So.
Yeah, thank you. And that's something I've noticed too. You outreach so many people, yet so few respond because they have a sense of fear as to what others are saying about them. But the crazy thing is, people say we love ourselves so much, yet we get hung up on the opinions of others and let what they say stop us from chasing our own dreams, our own goals, and our own aspirations. It's almost like us telling ourselves that we're not good enough to chase those dreams. And I do not want to live in a world where I'm telling myself I'm not good enough to achieve my goals. I'd rather say I am good enough. Even if I'm not good enough, I will get good enough through putting in the time, effort, and getting feedback from the people around me.
Right, exactly. And it's kind of tricky with this whole social media, just generation and everything. We kind of compare ourselves and see what others are doing. And people are saying, ironically, people are saying, you could do it. You could be just like how I'm doing this and that. But then it's like, the people that are watching you, they really have low self-esteem. They're seeing you, on vacations or doing whatever, looking pretty and nice, but they don't know what's really going, on behind the scenes. But it's like they want to aspire to be that person, but they're not doing anything. But the person on the other end is still kind of miserable because they're just showing the good parts of their life, which is it's just kind of twisted in a way, but yeah.
Arma, I fully agree with you. Everybody looks at how glamorized people's lives are on social media. They see all the Instagram posts, they see the videos, they see the views, they see the popularity, they see the fame, but they don't see the effort that goes into making the video. They don't see the down moments. They don't see the failures that happen. Like Thomas Edison famously said, I can fail 10,000 times, but I only need to succeed in that task once.
Right.
People only see the success. They never see the failures. And when they see that there is failures, or they come across their first failure, then they go like, oh, but look at this person. They were an overnight success. And I failed, so I should just give up right now. No, the reason why they succeeded is because they failed so many times that they learned what not to do.
Right. And the people that are successful, when they were getting, down and dirty, just working hard, and people only see the results, and it's like, who was there for you when you were struggling, when you didn't have food, hardly any food to eat on your plate, or just going out and working hard on an empty stomach, stuff like that. And it's like, who was there for you when you were struggling during those times, And then when you do make it, it's like everybody's your best friend.
Yeah, that's very true. It's so hard to find people who show that semblance of loyalty today, because people are so hung up on their own problems. They're not going to give you the time of day that you require for your necessary support. It's very, very rare to find somebody who does truly care about you. But even then, we ourselves, as others are hung up on their problems, we're so hung up on our problems that we don't realize how much the other person cares about us. We're just so caught up on those negative thoughts in our head that we never take a moment to step back and think, is what I'm telling myself truly who I am, or truly what is going on around me? So there's like a dissonance, or there's a disconnect between what's happening in reality versus what's happening in our head. And it's bridging that gap and bringing that reality in our head closer to reality itself that I do believe is one of the main points of our journey as human beings.
Right. Yeah, definitely. 100%. And, I hope from this conversation today, some people can, take those words seriously, because, it really does mean a lot. It's more to just listening. It's really just understanding, what's being said, and how can you apply it to your life, So now I kind of want to segue into, we got in contact with each other, and you mentioned you wanted to share your story about your mother who has currently, I'm not sure, I mean, is she still in your life at this moment?
Yeah, I have a very strong relationship with my mom. I'm not gonna, she means a lot to me. She's one of the most important people in my world, along with my dad, my grandparents, my sisters, my cousins, my family. Family is something that's very important to me.
Yeah.
And yeah, as we discussed on the call, she suffers from schizophrenia, and right now she's on tranquilizers, I would say. I don't really know too much,
Okay.
which helps stabilize her mood. So she's doing a lot better now. But early on, especially because I'm 23 right now, and these events occurred when I was 15.
Right.
And it took me from 15 to 23 to rewrite those scars that I experienced at that age.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So, that's what you contacted me. You wanted to talk about, and I definitely want to get into that, because that's a very important part of our conversation. But I also want to get into like your journey as starting as a content creator, right? Because there's people out there who may not know like who Shahab is, and want to know like what's his background, where he comes from, and everything like that. So I want to ask, what made you want to share and create the type of content you have now? Like, where did it all start when you start your channel? Where did that all start? Day one,
Okay, this is a bit of a long story, so cut me off anytime you
No, you're
want
fine.
me to stop. So it started in university. I did biology and medical sciences. However, I started picking up more interest in psychology, religion, and self-improvement through my own pursuit of knowledge, which people need to understand. You cannot let school stop you from learning. And I'd never let school stop me from learning. So I'd read books into psychology, religion, self-improvement to see, okay, how can I better understand myself? to ensure that the events that occurred don't define me for the rest of my life.
Right.
I took that information, I applied it to myself, and I watched a lot of other YouTubers. I remember during the pandemic, there was one moment I was feeling really, really down. And I just logged onto YouTube at that low point, and I saw a couple self-improvement YouTubers. Their names are like Hamza and First Man, mainly First Man. And I remember watching his videos, and I got so inspired. I'm like, wow, I want to help people who hit their low moment as well. But I don't want to just help them out of that low moment. I want them to take action on the information I'm giving them.
Right.
So that started making me think about starting a YouTube channel. That was about a year, 2 years ago. 3 years ago, I'd say. So I think 2020. And after I graduated, I decided, let's work and let's start a YouTube channel. So I took all the money I saved up during university, and instead of paying off my student loans, I'm like, you know what? Let's just buy camera equipment, invest into YouTube, start that as a side business.
Mm-hmm.
Based off of that, what I did originally was I was working with a group of 3-4 other guys. Oh, great guys. If you want me to give you their contact information for you to get them on, I'd recommend you getting them on too, because their stories are amazing.
I would love to. Let's do it. I'm out here for the opportunities.
100%. I can connect you with another YouTuber as well, and I would also like to get you on my podcast too, if that's a possibility, Armo.
Oh yeah, let's do it. Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. So I was working with them originally for a year. So that was more so based around men's mental health, and we had a channel. It was called Smart Anatomy.
Okay.
I would sit down and I'd spend a year using that opportunity to learn how to edit, learn what to do on YouTube, how to present on camera, get any other information so I can start my own YouTube channel. So after working with them for a year, I left and I decided, let's focus on your own YouTube channel. So what I did was for about 4 or 5 months, after work, after volunteer, I'd sit at home and I'd just read. I'd read as much as I could on YouTube. I'd watch as many different videos on YouTube about how to be a YouTube creator. Then I'd also do research on how to run a business, how to use camera equipment, how to make videos cinematic, how to make your editing skills better.
Right.
And then after 5-6 months, I decided, let's actually start taking action now. You have all the necessary information. Now the only thing left to do is to apply it. So I bought the equipment, and then right after that, I just started recording. I just hit the record button. I said, let's forget what everybody else says. Let's just record and get feedback from the people around you that actually care about you. So I'd go to my cousins and I ask them, what do you think about this video? What do you think I can do better? And they'll give me feedback because I know they want what's good for me. They're not just going to say something out of envy. And I'd get their feedback and then use that to improve the channel. That's why in the beginning, the first video, the reflection on death, I'm planning on making a video very similar to that soon. That's going to be my next video after the podcast I get put out.
Right.
And that first video, they said, okay, we don't like your background for your aerial footage. We want you to change that. And I'm like, okay, let me see what they're saying. Does it make sense? So I slowly started taking their feedback, adjusting it, and using it to improve. I didn't sit down, look at all the hate comments, and let the hate comments stop me. There have been hate comments, there have been dislikes, but that I'm just using as fuel. Like, look, you're disliking my videos now, but later on, you're going to see I was his biggest fan. I was his day one fan.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That's taking me to this point. And right now, main thing is to connect and collaborate with as many content creators as possible. And I remember I came across your collaboration request on Reddit, and I'm like, I checked out your channel. I said, this is a very interesting channel. Let's connect and collaborate, because I do feel that in essence we share a similar message.
Right. 100%. Yeah. And I was there too, because like I was trying to look up all these videos, how to get 100 views, or how to get 1,000 views, and this, how to post it, post 3 to 5 times a week and stuff like that. I was trying to be like this perfect content creator, and I have another contact, his name is Successful. He's another content creator, but we both met through, we had gaming channels at the time, and that's where we both started, where we were trying to push so hard just to be like this perfect content creator, and do out of the whack wazoo things just to try to get views and stuff like that. But he realized his passion was for doing commentary on different movies and TV shows, and I'm like, how are you getting, because his community is growing, and I'm like, how'd you do that? Did you buy views or something like that? And he's kind of like, no, he said, I stopped taking advice or whatever, and I just started doing what I love, and the people came and stuff. And I was like, man, that's inspiring. I just started doing that too, and that's why I have this channel, because I'm like, you know what, forget the views or anything. I just want to be able to learn, help educate others, and just learn from the guests that I do have that come, on this channel, because I don't know everything. I'm not perfect. So when people take the time to come and want to have a conversation with me, I take advantage of that, because they can know so much more that I don't know. So I'm learning within this channel myself. I'm learning from you.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. As they say, life is an experiment for the seeker of knowledge. You always want to pursue knowledge no matter how far it is from you, because it's getting that baseline understanding, that baseline amount of knowledge that's going to give you what's necessary to take action. And yeah, saying taking action, it sounds easy until you do it. You can keep on saying action, 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 but the only way for you to do it is literally just take the first step. And it's that fear, overcoming that fear, which is the most difficult part. It's what stopped so many people from doing what they love, is
Right.
the fear of what other people are going to say about you.
Exactly. And it's like everyone at some point was like, you think of some of the greatest people, successful people in the world. At some point, people were like, who's that? Who's this nobody? Everyone's who's successful has been there. And it's like, it takes time, I guess, for people to figure out who you are and adapt to your personality, because, everyone has those moments where, they're afraid of being judged and stuff like that. But you find your true self when you realize everyone's always trying to change and judge you. When you realize you think, you listen to yourself within and be like, I just want to do this the way I want to do this. And that's where the magic happens.
The funny thing is, Arma, I realized something. When people judge you, they're just judging a part of themselves that they threw away.
100%.
At one point, everybody dreamed of being a content creator, but they let the voices of other people stop them. And when they see you doing it, they see Arma doing it, they see Shahab doing it, or they see Ethan doing it, then they get jealous. They get envious. And why did this person have the confidence, have the courage to do it, but I didn't? And that hurts people so bad. And you can't let what their hurt stop you.
Exactly.
Doing what's necessary.
Exactly. Listen, I don't care if I had 5 likes or 1 like, as long as there's someone there that learned something, that's the goal. So yeah, 100%. And that leads me to, there was a quote that you said on your video. I don't remember it word for word, but it really got me thinking. And I believe it was the video, it was like, why you will find inspiration in your darkest moments. I think it was that video. And I'm gonna just say it here because I really like it and I want people to hear it. So you mentioned about the balance of life. You said it's like a canvas painted with the strokes of joy and sorrow, success and failure, and light and darkness. And to be able to welcome time of ease, we have to go through our sorrows in life. Like photographs that are developed in the dark red room, we fail to recognize that our sorrows, but with each challenge we go through in our lives, it adds more depth or details to our portrait. So, I mean, you worded it better than me, but I could definitely relate to that. And, I feel that probably moved others who really had an idea of what that meant. But if you don't mind, could you kind of break that down a little more, or share a real life example of what you meant in that video?
Yeah, for sure. So, in terms of that video, the essential message was everybody goes through dark moments. We all go through moments of pain and sorrow, yet we do not know what that pain and sorrow is showing us, what it's teaching us. As long as we go through that moment, we take a step back and reflect on what's happening, then eventually there will be ease, there will be reprieve at the end. And that reprieve is you becoming a better person, learning from it. As in each moment of sorrow, you will find joy at the end of it, as long as you stay steadfast upon the path.
Right, definitely, yes. So thank you for breaking that down. But yeah, definitely, I really do hope that, people can hear more, of the messages you put into your video, because you word it so well, like, you know,
Oh,
um,
thank
yeah, so definitely you gotta check out that video. So we learned a little bit more about you. So I think I'm ready to transition to what we really are here for. So the main reason we're having this conversation, is to share your experience about your mother who has schizophrenia. And just letting you know, I want to be respectful because this is a personal topic and this is your story. So uh, if there's any question you're not comfortable with, like I mentioned before, just let me know. I know you said you were okay with whatever, but yeah. So let's just start with growing up with your mother. Okay. So what was the relationship between you and her, just growing up as a child and so on?
I know my mother loves me. I'm gonna make that very clear.
Mm-hmm.
When she was not going through any of her episodes, she was very kind. She's very caring. I would not I would not replace her for anything. However, due to the relationship being very hot and cold, when there were moments of her episode happening, I felt very unloved, unsafe.
Mm-hmm.
And that resulted in me getting a little. I'm very outgoing naturally, but previously I'd be a bit withdrawn and then I'd be outgoing, withdrawn, outgoing. And that was most likely due to my relationship with my mother, as early on in terms of childhood, the relationship you have with your parents essentially formulates the rest of your life or the rest of your relationships.
Oh, right,
And she would love
definitely.
me one moment, and then during her episode, she'd be very withdrawn. There would be things she'd say that make me upset, and I'm like, why is this happening?
Mm-hmm.
And that, honestly, it had a very negative impact. I just didn't realize it at the time because when you're going through it, you numb yourself to the pain.
Right. So when
You
when
numb yourself. Sorry,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no problem, no problem. It's okay.
So when do you kind of remember around the time period when you actually started to notice maybe some signs that she had schizophrenia, or was it someone else that had to mention it to you, like, oh, your mother may have this or that?
As young children, we think that everything happens around us is just normal. It's just everyday life. For
Mm-hmm.
example, you see children in a village somewhere in Bangladesh. They just think their life is their life. They don't think there's something better at the other side. They
Mm-hmm.
just enjoy the moment. That was similar to what I was going through at that moment. God bless my dad. He's gone through a lot. I have so much respect for my father for everything he's done for me.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of my biggest role models. I have a lot of respect for him. And I didn't realize I had a problem or there was an issue until my mom started getting hospitalized more often. And that was before she got put on the tranquilizers. But irregardless, it was the moment it really hit was I was about 15 and my mom had a severely bad episode. It was so bad that they had to isolate her in a psychiatric ward for about 2 or 3 months. And I know there's other people out there that are going through even worse than me. I don't know what your personal opinions are on the geopolitical situations happening in the Middle East. Like I see videos of little kids in Gaza, and I think the suffering they're going through, it's nothing compared to what I went through. Yet when I was there, that felt like my entire world. Like it just shattered. I remember seeing my mom there. She wasn't paying attention to me. Her eyes were darting everywhere.
Right.
They were very red. Hair was scattered. The psychiatrist just walks me and he was very cold about the entire situation. Like this was happening to him all the time. I sat down, I saw, and I remember just crying. I'm like, what's going on here? I just don't understand. And it's that image has been stuck in my head for a long time. And it wasn't until I was able to sit down during the pandemic and reflect on what was going through. Sorry, it's a little hard for me to share these things. I apologize.
Yeah, I'm
I'm gonna
sorry.
get it
Yeah.
out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna get it out. I promise. I'm very open to sharing this stuff because I know it'll benefit somebody out there. It's just hard for me to say. But irregardless, I remember sitting down during the pandemic and reflecting on everything that's happened, and that's when I truly realized what the problem was. Because after that, to be completely transparent, I just started chasing all the pleasures in the world. Right after that situation, I got into drugs, I got into alcohol, I got into whatever else high school students do. And the constant pursuit of pleasure to get my mind off of what was happening at home resulted in me becoming somebody I didn't want to be. I felt like there was a disconnect between who I was and who I portrayed myself. And eventually I reached a breaking point when I realized, why am I doing this? I feel so fake.
Mm-hmm.
And the main thing that really helped me was originally for a while I was an atheist. I didn't believe in God because I'm like, why would God do this to me? Out of everybody, why me?
Mm-hmm.
I know it's very selfish of me to say this, but I'm just sharing my thought process with everybody. I'm sharing my thought process with you, Arma. In that moment, I'm asking myself, why me? Why was this happening to me? Why is this happening to everybody else?
100%.
You know, if God's doing this to me, then why should I believe in God? And that also ties into with every hardship, there comes ease at the end. That's also one of the reasons I made that video, is to share the experience I had in a way where I was being a little impersonal with it, but irregardless. So, sorry, I lost my train of thought.
No, that's fine. Yeah, because you just answered my other question was, how did this change the way you saw your mom, or did this change your perspective? Because you just mentioned that learning the truth about your mother, it was a lot of trauma you were dealing with, and the only way you feel like you couldn't escape from that trauma was to fall into maybe sinful actions that weren't really a part of you, but you just did it because that was your only way to escape. And I definitely understand that. Me myself, I've been through a lot of trauma, and that's a story, that's a whole nother chapter book for another day. But I'm definitely glad you're opening up to about this, even though I know it's hard. And yeah, so I think to add to that, did your perspective, like, once you kind of realize like the sinful actions you were doing to run away from your trauma, did that kind of give you another version, like a different perspective of life besides just trying to run away from your trauma? Did you think like, oh, the world is like this, and I don't want to deal with this or that? Or did you think kind of like, oh, what am I doing? This is not me. I gotta seek help or something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I told myself. I need to seek help. And before I tell you how I went and seek that help, when you were talking, it reminded me of something. I have a friend, he has a very serious medical condition, and it left him hospitalized for a long time. And he told me something that was very, very eye-opening. He said, people see me smile, but they don't understand the pain behind the smile.
That's deep.
Yeah, and that reminded me of another quote, is people see what other people do, but they don't understand the difficulty they go through. They see the downfall of a man online, but they don't understand his internal wrestlings, what he was fighting.
Mm-hmm.
We don't realize people are going through something until we see that, oh, this person killed themselves. We just, as we discussed previously, we just glamorize their lifestyle. We just don't understand what they're actually going through.
Right.
Getting their perspective on things. Now, what led me to getting help is, as I previously stated, I was an atheist for a long time. I completely disregarded God.
Right.
And it wasn't during the pandemic when I sat down, I reflected, as you stated, that I looked at it from a different perspective. And I said, maybe everything everybody's telling me is wrong. So I sat down and said, okay, if I go from the premise that everything around me is wrong, everything my parents have told me is wrong, everything my friends have been telling me is wrong, let me do my own research on the topics. And there's this phenomenon in psychology, they refer to it as the expert response, where they state that when you see an expert giving you a response, you're automatically going to believe what they say, because you don't want to put in the brain and time and effort in order to see, okay, is it correct? But when there's something personal or it's important to you, you will put that time and effort to understand that response. Now, previously, I would go around using the expert response. I'll listen to the experts, right? But I wouldn't do the research. Then when I started sitting down and doing research on religion, then I understood there is a God, there is something there, and if there is a God, he's going to come out with a message for humanity. Now, that's what brought me closer to religion. And I sought help mainly through God. Because I know if I sit down and I cry about what I'm going through to other people, that's not going to give me a solution. What's going to give me a solution is if I sit down and I talk about solutions. But for me to talk about a solution, I need to remove the emotions from the situation. How do I remove the emotions? The only way I can remove the emotion is when I'm sitting there one-on-one with God and having dialogue with him. Because I know that no matter what happens in my life, God will always be there for me.
Right.
I just might not know it in that moment. I might think that, oh, God, why is he doing this to me? What's going on here? But over time, I think God had it happen for this reason. And now I understand that reason. People should not get harped on what's happening right in front of you. Have a long-term perspective and reflect on what's happening around you.
Right.
Seek those lessons. Don't seek the pain, and enjoy the pleasure you feel from pursuing that pain. Because I do feel that, especially with trauma, people just enjoy talking about their trauma. They just enjoy the, I don't want to sound very negative when I say this, the victim mindset.
Right.
Where they enjoy the attention they get from talking about their trauma. That attention is not going to get you anywhere. What's that attention really doing for you? It's not doing anything for you. The only thing that's going to do something is you sitting down with God, dialoguing with him, understanding what's going on around you, and then using that to find solutions.
Right.
So that's what I did. And that helped me get out of that rut. And now I want to be able to share this message with everybody.
Yeah, share it. Share it. but yeah, what you said earlier, I could also relate to that too, where you basically you mentioned how sometimes people don't see what's going on behind the scenes, and sometimes people wear a smile to hide the pain sometimes, and that could be said with, like, when you said that, I started thinking about entertainers and athletes, right? It's like athletes put their body through so much work to entertain fans or supporters or their organization, right? And you don't know what they could be going through. Like, say, you know, a famous basketball player, for instance, you know, is used to people are used to seeing the basketball player put up so many points, you know, 20, 30 points per game or something like that. And then say that basketball player is going through something harsh, personal, like something personal in his or her life, and all of a sudden now they're only scoring like 5 or 10 points. The fans could be like, what's wrong with this person? What's going on? Like, you know, like, that person's a human being. You know, and of course you gotta show up and, you know, do your job if it's needed and stuff, but at the end of the day, you know, you're not a robot. You can't be 100% perfect all the time.
Yeah, that's a very, very valid point. People idolize these people, which leads them to deifying them. Where they treat that person as the results and performance they get for their team. They don't view it from a human perspective, where these are also human beings that have their own issues. And because they begin to see those human traits coming out, they lose the deification they have of that basketball player in their head, and they go, oh, he's just an average person. He's just like us. And that's what results in them pushing back on why is he performing like this.
Yeah, definitely. And that's why I use that example, because I see it today, you know, like, even with sports or certain things people are going through, and how the media treats, you know, successful people or entertainment. Like, they'll say the smallest thing or twist things or trying to frame someone in a way where it's not true. And, you know, then you have people commenting saying, oh, why'd you do that? Because this article said you did this and that. And then, like, it's like they got to deal with that and their personal life. And it's like, come on now. Yeah, that's very valid. And that brings us back to our previous point where we discussed that when people get envious of others, they're only viewing the successful things that they see. They're not viewing the difficulties they're going through. And one technique they talk about in the book, The Laws of Human Nature, if you want to get over your envy or jealousy, yes, you view that this person is successful, but what are the difficulties they're going through in terms of the success? When it comes to basketball players, they have to deal with everybody constantly harping on their personal lives. They don't really have a personal life. They do their best to hide it, but eventually everything comes out. It's the same with politicians. Yeah, and
people want to.
Yeah, and I
Sorry, go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry about that. And to also add to that, it's really interesting because we're in a time, the internet is not new, but it's still somewhat new in a way because we have so much to go as far as with this whole AI stuff rolling in and metaverse and all that. But it's like, back then, like, when our parents or grandparents were growing up, they didn't have stuff to remind them of their past constantly. So it was easier for them to move on and develop as a person and learn from different things. But now with social media, you can make a mistake, 5, 10 years in the past, but it's still up there. And then you got people reminding you or, making jokes and stuff like that. So it's kind of hard to for us to move on because I feel like everything is going so fast. People want things quickly, and there's just so much distractions out there, and it's just hard for people to come to a common ground because there's just so much opinions and everything going out there quick and rapid. Like it's just a lot to deal with mentally, and I think in our subconscious it's kind of like we all are kind of like going through this trauma in a way as a society, but we still kind of ignore it because everything's happening so fast.
Mm. Yeah, that's very true. Life nowadays occurs at such a rapid pace
Mhm.
that it's hard for us to keep up with it. And it's very valid for you to discuss the fact that people now cannot escape their mistakes.
Mhm.
Previously, nothing was on social media. So what you might have said as a young kid won't
Mhm.
come back to haunt you. But now we have social media creators that said something 5, 10 years ago. They've completely changed as a person.
Mhm.
Yet certain individuals who are envious, who are jealous, who want what they have, they'll bring up the point and try to destroy their entire reputation, everything they've worked for.
Right. It's honestly scary because it's like, how do we accept how do we accept human beings? How do we give people their space and boundaries to actually grow and develop as a person? And I mean, it's understandable to a point because we're kind of conditioned in a way to just think fast, give our opinions fast, but it's like how can we balance that? And I mean, it's not going to get any easier to be honest.
Yeah, it really isn't. After the introduction of AI, everything's been happening at such a rapid pace where,
Mhm.
honestly, even a year ago, I'm thinking, wow, humanity has moved at such a fast pace, even in terms of the events geopolitically. I
Mhm.
think right now we're living at a very, very scary moment in time.
Yes, have you seen the Apple Vision Pro stuff, the headsets? Like people are going crazy with those things.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely insane that people are hooking themselves up and relying on these multi-dollar corporations.
Mhm.
They're letting them control everything they do and say. And even then, everything leads back to BlackRock or Vanguard, where they give out ESG scores to ensure that people are following a certain agenda. I'm not trying to get conspiratorial here. This
Mhm.
is, if people do their research, this is exactly what they're going to find. It
Mhm.
is people want to ignore what's right in front of them so they can just live their life,
Right.
live in ease, and not live in blissful ignorance, we could say.
Mhm.
But people can only live in blissful ignorance for so long before it comes back to bite you.
Right. 100%. And yeah, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get off topic there, but we got into a good subject there. But I want to kind of go back to your mother and everything. I wanted to ask you, now knowing what you know, right, about your mother since you're older, um, what was something you learned about your mom, like with her having schizophrenia? Was there any, I guess, lessons you learned as far as your relationship with her?
That no matter what, she does love me. And that's something very simple, yet very profound. Because a child always needs to experience love from their mother.
Mhm.
And going through the rest of my life knowing that even her condition may be bad, and she may go hot, she may go cold, she still deep down has love for me. It's
Mhm.
something that it provides a blanket of security, knowing that no matter how difficult my life gets, there's three things I'm sure of. First, there's a God. Second, my mom and my dad love me. No matter what happens, they'll be there to support me.
Mhm.
And that's, yeah,
That
it
that
may be simple,
yeah.
but it's a very profound lesson I learned.
Yeah, that's the full circle moment. Yeah. So based on your mother, you said she's, receiving treatments and everything. I just want your opinion on how do you think, and I don't want to get too personal with it, but how do you think that the mental health treatment, as far as people that are dealing with mental health, how do you think the treatment is as far as where you live? Because I'm not sure if you're in the USA or in a different country, but um, you know,
What's north? What's north of the U.S.?
Canada.
I'm from Canada.
Yeah, yeah, I got that question right. Yeah, so I guess the biggest discussion is always about uh, medical care and the prices of everything and being able to afford and everything like that. Do you feel like your mother is being treated correctly where you are?
I can go on about this all day, but I think the industry of psychiatry, I'm planning on becoming a psychiatrist myself, mainly because of this. It's
Mm-hmm.
failed society. I think the mental health infrastructure in both America and Canada is utterly useless.
Mm-hmm.
It's tailored towards keeping people hooked up on drugs in order to push the bottom line or the amount of earnings pharmaceutical giants are making.
Mm-hmm.
This is very clearly seen through. I don't want to get political, but you cannot discuss mental health infrastructure without getting political. Through the amount of money pharmaceutical companies are putting into lobbying in America itself.
Mm-hmm.
Every large news network gets a cut from pharmaceutical companies. Most politicians get cuts from major pharmaceutical companies, big pharma, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
In Canada, it's very similar. Everybody wants to push drugs onto you. It's due to it being allopathic medicine. Allopathic medicine being the field of medicine that's mainly focused on drug treatment. They give you drugs as a treatment. They don't discuss any other pathway, i.e., psychotherapy, psychoanalysis. That's more so put on the back burner, or more home remedies. They don't discuss the possibility of how religion can help you, how spirituality can help you. Humans are more than just drugs. We're more than just our biology.
Mm-hmm.
We're spiritual animals who need spiritual treatment.
That's a good
Yes,
point.
yes, you can discuss. Oh, your hormones might be imbalanced. Your you, your thought patterns might be the result of something going on in your head. Your neurotransmitters might be imbalanced. But what's the cause behind that? Everybody's just simply focused on the symptoms. They don't treat the underlying cause.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because it makes a certain group money.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if are you okay with me talking about this topic? Because some people are uncomfortable with this discussing the.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, for example, in Canada, they have a large issue regarding homeless people, and I understand there's a fentanyl pandemic that's occurring both in American borders and Canadian borders. Now, I might be getting my facts wrong, so I'd recommend people do research on this. And the I believe in Canada, they give out. I'd recommend a channel. His name's Aaron Gunn, and he goes very, very in depth into British Columbia. So British Columbia is a province on the west coast. I think it's north of California.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally on that west coast border. They have a major, major drug pandemic going on there because they've completely legalized all substances. Portugal has a legalization model. However, they have certain laws in place in order to ensure that the person is getting treatment. It's more person based. I'd have to do more research in order to give you a better response. I did my research previously. I'm a little rusty on this topic.
Right.
However, previously there'd be a drug family. I think it's Purdue Pharma. I might be incorrect about that, but they would be giving out a certain painkiller, and I don't remember the name of the painkiller. As I said, watch the Aaron Gunn video. He goes very in depth into this.
Mm-hmm.
So people would get hooked up onto that painkiller. But what the Canadian government did was they banned that painkiller, and then they did a deal with that exact same pharmaceutical company to come up with a painkiller that's about 4 or 5 times stronger, and they started selling that.
Wow.
And that resulted as a gateway into harder drugs such as heroin, such as fentanyl. And now what people do is through the fixed drug legalization system they have, they'd give people that drug made by the pharmaceutical company through the Canadian government because everything is publicized. My opinions of public and private healthcare are a bit controversial.
Mm-hmm.
We can discuss that later if you like.
Yeah, that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, it's very Yeah, it's very crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But for that, what they do is the person would just go into the drugstore, the addict, they'd get the drug, and then what they'd do is they'd sell that drug. I forgot the name of the drug. As I said, I'll say it again. Watch the video. I would highly recommend watching the video.
Mm-hmm.
It's by Aaron Gunn, Aarongunn.
Okay.
I can send you the video afterwards. It's very, very interesting.
Okay.
Now, what they would do is they'd sell those drugs to 12 and 13-year-olds. And those 12 and 13-year-olds would start doing those drugs in middle school and high school. And eventually they'd become addicts. And then that cycle of addiction would continue on to the point where it's a major problem in BC. Even in Toronto, I currently live in the GTA, so I live near Toronto. We have a major issue in terms of catching people who commit crimes due to the fact that they're on drugs and then just releasing them right away. And they go out and cause more problems. All this is simply to satisfy the needs of a certain elite class. The big pharma companies hitting their bottom line. They're destroying society for their bottom line.
Mm.
The current situation in terms of the drug pandemic, which honestly, it's a very, very serious issue. And Alberta's coming out with something called the Alberta model, which I would recommend people do research into as well, which does seem to help to an extent. But I do think that with things like these, there needs to be more long-term research done onto it. It's not something where you can just do a research study for 4, 5, 6 months like they did with certain situations during the pandemic and then shoot that off and say, okay, now look at all the research findings. It's something that requires months, years to see what were the long-term negative impacts on the person's health.
Right.
But obviously, they're just going to shell it out as fast as they can to ensure that they're getting the money for it, which in itself is ridiculous. I shadow a physician here. He's one of the nicest men I've ever met. I'm currently at a mosque here. I mainly come to this mosque for him
Mm-hmm.
and my cousin too, as well as the community we've created. And he's discussed these things with me in depth, where he states that a lot of doctors, they get paid off by pharmaceutical companies in order to shill off their drugs. How they get paid off is they get invited onto yacht trips to parties, especially in the US. This is a major phenomenon there.
Hmm.
And I've seen it happen because I've shadowed physicians in Egypt and I've seen the certain medical conditions in Turkey as well. I had the opportunity to go abroad to Egypt to volunteer in the hospital setting. I was very close to a couple of doctors and they'd be telling me these things too, both in public and private practice, where pharmaceutical companies would go and they'd sponsor trips for them. And because of the law of reciprocity, where they say, if I'm going to do you a favor, we automatically want to give them a favor back.
Wow.
Doctors are more likely to sell their drug. They're more likely to say that this drug does work. Why? Because the pharmaceutical company has put them in debt to them, not just monetarily, but by taking them on these trips. So if anybody's watching and they're a physician or they're in a medical position and a pharmaceutical company comes to you and says, look, we want you to go on this yacht trip. You don't need to do anything for us. Realize that it's a psychological trick to make you indebted to them.
Mm. Wow. Wow, that gets real deep, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Wow. And speaking of what you were talking about with drugs, it's really interesting too because you know, like in middle school and middle school and high school they used to well, I could say for my school, they used to have like I think it was like what was it called? Like health education basically, and they would talk about the dangers of drugs and stuff like that. And that's the one topic that kids were interested in learning about because drugs and all that can get a little it's controversy basically because it's a big issue. So I find it interesting we had these classes telling students these are the consequences if you take these certain types of drugs and stuff just to go and look and see like my classmates doing the drugs that our health education class was talking about like stay away, this is what happens. And it's like why are the kids that haven't even developed or fully know themselves as a person just want to get into these habits. And it's like a lot of the times it can be their maybe a family relative they're influenced by or their favorite celebrity or artist seeing them do it. And I just find it really interesting. I do think how we have health education for, children in schools. I do think there should be more advanced health education class, meditation classes, and especially for college students as well.
Yeah, this is a topic we can delve into. It might be a little controversial, my particular takes onto it.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to expand on something you stated, which I did find very interesting, where they discuss. There's a quote I came across. The quote states that one of the worst things when you die is unsatisfied curiosity. Hence, when we discuss drugs in class, people get curious.
Mm-hmm.
They want to rebel against the authority figure and then chase that drug to see what does this actually do. Because in my opinion, people don't truly learn something until they get their hands onto that.
Right.
To see how it truly affects them. Because people can tell you, oh, do not jerk off, for example, but it's not until you jerk off that you understand how bad it is for you.
Right.
For example, you can spend books describing how an apple tastes to somebody, but it's not until they try the apple itself will they know how it actually tastes like. Right. And it's similar with drugs. My personal opinion is that everything in the university and the school system is tailored towards making you an employee in order to follow certain guidelines. For example, I do not think it's beneficial for a certain class of people to have you learn things. Therefore, what they would rather do is have you sit down 8 to 3 in your class, having your teacher tell you everything. And then teachers are hired by a state system. That state system wants to teach you things in a certain manner. They don't want you to actually learn about what's going on. It's similar to 1984 and this book called Brave New World, where Brave New World, people are getting controlled by their senses, by their emotions, by their desires. Whereas in 1984, it's more outright control of the society through the school, state system, and news. We currently live in a world where both things are occurring. We live in a world where we're both controlled by our emotions, by our urges, by our desires through social media. See, it's similar with TikTok. TikTok in China, I was talking to somebody at a club the other day, and the guy was talking about Chinese TikTok. He went on his Chinese TikTok, and he showed every single video is of engineers, of people doing something incredible. Wow. Here, you scroll through TikTok for 5 seconds. What do you see?
Dances.
You see women putting themselves... Sorry?
Dances.
Exactly. You see women putting them in promiscuous situations. I believe women are something that are very valuable. They need to be protected. They should do whatever they need to do. However, you should not be showing your promiscuity online because it's something that comes back to bite you down the line. You always have to be careful about your image. It's the same thing with men. Men should not be going around half naked, throwing around whatever their wee woohoo, the cucumber at certain times of the year. It's very negatively impactful for children, I would say. I'm doing my best to say all these things without actually getting into the topic.
Yeah, I see. Yeah. Because you know how it is, like, cancellation and stuff.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Once we get started on these topics, I won't be able to stop talking about them.
Yeah, you could go on forever and forever, and yeah, like we were saying, it gets deep. Yeah, definitely. But
it's very, very deep.
Right, 100%. And I do want to kind of transition a little bit back to schizophrenia. I just wanted to get your advice. What would you have for people who have family relatives or maybe a friend or anyone who's dealing with they're dealing with a family relative or friend they know who has schizophrenia? What would be your advice to those people?
My advice is to read a book. It's called Mindsight. So Mindsight essentially states that you need to understand how you react to the world and how your experiences shape you.
Okay.
You want to be able to take a step back and truly empathize with the other person to understand their situation. Yes, you're going to feel certain emotions in the moment, but it's being able to step back and not letting that emotion define your response, which is going to be the most beneficial for you in the moment. Your family member has schizophrenia, but that's not going to stop them from loving you. You have to be there for them, no matter how difficult it is. Because at the end of the day, when we die, God is going to judge you for what you did, not what others did. Life itself is a test. I did a podcast with Ethan Ero 2-3 days ago. I'm going to connect you with him so you can have him on too.
Okay.
He discussed that we're in a test currently. You can't expect the teacher in the test to give you answers. You find out the results at the end. But life itself, even though it is a test, you have to seek the answers yourself.
Right.
That is how God acts through you. And I'm Muslim, so in Islam they have a saying where the word insan in Arabic not only means man, but it means eyes. So we serve as the eyes of God to manifest reality.
Mm-hmm.
Is what we say, and we manifest reality. Why? To know God, because God is a hidden treasure that wants to be known. It wants to be sought out. That's why He gives you signs for you to find. But people's eyes may be open, their hearts are blind. To say that we see the signs in front of us, but it's our heart that's not letting us accept it.
Right.
To relate to my mother's situation in terms of schizophrenia, it taught me many things. At the moment, I did not know because my heart was blind to it. It taught me patience. It taught me empathy. It taught me to spend more time thinking about what was going on rather than letting out my emotions, becoming emotional. Take a step back, be objective, reflect, and be open about your situation. Learn as much as you can. Use it as fuel to get better. Instead of taking your frustration out on others, use that frustration to make you better as a person. Because at the end of the day, when you die, you don't take wealth with you. You don't take power with you. You don't take other people with you. You go there yourself. And the only thing that you leave upon this earth is your impact, your legacy. So how do you want other people to remember you? Do you want them to remember you as being somebody who's emotional, somebody who took out their emotions onto others, somebody who was frustrated? Or do you want to die knowing that you had a positive impact? There's a famous saying where they say that when you're born, you're crying, yet the other people around you are laughing. But when you die, you want it to be that other people are crying and you're laughing. And in terms of laughing, I'm referring to that you're laughing that you left a positive impact, that you did what you wanted to do. You want to live each and every single moment.
Ooh, snaps for
To
that.
its
Snaps
max.
for that. Snap, snap, snap.
Thank you. Thank you. You want to live each and every single moment of your life knowing that you did your best. And obviously, even I have moments where that does not happen. I have moments where I slack, but I don't let those moments of slack, those moments of procrastination define me. I sit down and I say, okay, I did it. But now what can I do better? What are my next 5 steps to improve? People get caught up in, oh, I'm sorry.
You're fine.
My bad. My bad. That was very inappropriate in that moment. People get hung up on, oh, I have so many problems that they don't come up with solutions. When you have so many problems, just think about what are the next 5 things I can do to change that rather than getting caught up on those problems. Because the only thing you can do is just take one step forward and have the courage to take those steps. And obviously, courage doesn't come right away. Confidence isn't something that's built overnight. Confidence is simply a state where you lack insecurity. How do you get into that state? You get into that state through throwing courage. That's why courage is a cardinal virtue the Stoics talked about. It's a virtue that precedes all virtues because it gives you the ability to take that step towards getting the other virtues.
Mm-hmm.
As they famously say, first, you understand, then you have the courage to take the step.
Right. That was well said. I couldn't even get that close to saying that, but that was excellent.
Oh, thank you.
Really, because I was gonna say what's one thing you want people to take away from this conversation, but I felt like throughout our whole conversation you gave a bunch of takeaways. But you know
Thank you. Thank you.
before we just two more questions before we wrap up everything, Shahab. If you can give the world a new goal to work on for 2024, what would it be?
Not to get so caught up on our differences. Everybody's different. We have to learn from those differences. Don't hate on others because they're different from you. Accept those differences, learn how to disagree with others, and use that to improve yourself rather than taking it out on another person. The reason why I bring this up, 2024 elections are soon, both in Canada and America. We live in a very divisive society. We do not want to sit down and say, oh, because this person is a Republican, this person is a Democrat, I can't talk to them. No, you sit down and you have dialogue. The only way to a solution is through dialogue. It's not through war, it's through dialogue. First, sit down on a table, talk, and see where that takes you. And then you can see your next step. Because we need to not only think about ourselves, but the next 7 generations.
100%, yeah. And I keep saying 100% because that's 100% right. Like it. We do need to be able to get to a point like I don't know if you've seen interviews from the past from like students from the 1950s and 60s giving their opinions about very serious situations going on in society, and it's like they were able to sit down, communicate, well about how they feel and gave their opinions. And it would be nice to get back to that point where where even though you may disagree with someone about something and you don't like what the other person says or does, let's just sit down and have a conversation. Let's agree to disagree, because at the end of the day we have to realize that, we're all different. So how can we I think it's all these conversations are all about learning something. Whether you disagree with someone or not, learn something from someone, okay? Yeah, I may know what I know, and I may disagree with this person, but at the end of the day, hey, I learned that this person feels this way. And that's okay,
Mm.
you know? So I feel like we need to be able to have more like common ground with whatever you believe in or not. Because
Mm.
just for example, just hypothetical, you may disagree with some of the things I may say, for example, or I may disagree with some of the things you said, but I'm not going to be like, oh, no, I can't talk to this dude anymore. I can't talk to Shahab no more. I have to be able to like sit down and listen and be like, okay, he said this and that. I can respect him for his position and what he said. And that's all
Mm.
that matters. Let's be mature about, excuse me, voice crack. Let's be mature about these conversations.
Yeah, that's very, very true. And it also brings me to the aspect of some of my biggest role models are Muhammad Ali and Malcolm X. I read his biography; it was truly, truly inspiring. One thing I really liked about them was that they stood up for what they stood up for what they believed for. That's something we lack in today's society. Yes, we may have disagreements. We have to learn from our disagreements. But when it comes to our core values, you must stand up for them, no matter what everybody says. You can't let people pay you off. For example, Muhammad Ali, in terms of the Vietnam War, he stood up for what he believed in. Malcolm X, when it came to the civil rights movement, he stood up for what he believed in.
Mm-hmm.
I inspire to be like that. I inspire to be somebody who stands up for what they believe in, regardless of what others may tell me. They may say, what you're doing is wrong. Yes, I take their feedback. I appreciate it, and then I use it to improve. However, if I know that is conflicting with what I believe in, what I want to do, then I'm going to stand up for my convictions, regardless of what other people are telling me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's finding that balance. Because, yes, we have to be able to have dialogue, but there comes a point where you have to stand up for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You have to stand up for who you are.
Right.
As I usually say this often, but the only thing a man has is their word. So if you can't stand up for your word, then who are you as a person? You're nobody.
Right. Definitely. And lastly, I want to ask you, what is next for you? Anything exciting that you're looking forward towards, like forwards to? I can't speak right now. Anything you're excited for this year in 2024 for yourself?
Big movements being made on the YouTube channel. Inshallah, Arma, I'll have you on very soon for a podcast episode myself if you're open to it.
Whoop whoop, let's go.
We'll have an episode with Arma. We have 3 or 4 other podcast episodes going on. I'm coming out with a video referring to the pursuit of happiness in modern society. That video I'm aiming to get out in the next 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very much looking forward to that video. So if you guys can leave a like, comment, subscribe on Arma's channel, leave a like, comment, subscribe on my channel for future collaborations, that'd be much appreciated.
Please do. Please, please, please. So, Shahab, I want to thank you so much again. And sorry if I didn't pronounce your name correctly. I'm trying my best. But I do want to thank you so much again for taking the time to share your voice. And I look forward to you doing more great things along your journey, because you have such a lot of good words of encouragement. And I think people would learn a lot from your perspective and just your journey in general, right? So, thank you to anyone who has tuned in, and make sure to check out Shahab's channel. I'll put all the links down below. So if you're really into self-improvement, if you're having trouble focusing, and or if you're distracted by a lot of things and you just want to improve your mindset, I advise you check out his channel. And because he has a lot of good information, and it's very informative as well. So thanks to anyone who's listening. I'll see you guys in the next conversation, and take care. Peace.
Take care.